my screen?
Yeah, it is started. Thank you.
Thank you so much, coordinators. Okay. I hope my screen is visible. Okay. So this is a scene from the Kullu Dussehra festival.
It's not audible though. If there is some.
Or
remove your hand free, then it will be audible.
actually, it's not. The audio is not relevant. That's why I didn't focus on that. Okay, so as you can see that the devta basically moves according to their own accord, and there we go. And so the original story of these descendants or these kings and queens is that so these devtas basically originated from either the descendants of kings and queens or they are the reincarnations of Hindu gods and goddesses. And their body is unlike that of any human body, obviously. And because for us, the human body is something that we are and something that we possess. And yet for the deities, for the devtas, it is something that they are, and yet they possess other bodies. For example, that of the Gaur. And so in order to understand our fascination with non-human bodies like the devta, it is you can relate to how we are obsessed with superheroes and Avengers and Spider-Man and Batman and all of these things, because it represents how something that we believe about ourselves, which is that our body is not capable of these things, and we have a restricted set of capabilities, and our body is somewhat a hindrance on our mind, which is free to think of anything. And so that's why I believe that by deflecting our beliefs and our the power off of the devta is a much easier task than deflecting it off of any other human body, which is not that easy to obey than it is to obey a non-human body, because we can believe it to be possessing some heightened capabilities. So one of the functions that it has is to overlook the devta's function is to overlook the village. Okay, and that includes all amounts of responsibilities, like for example, um, taking care of the rural development, taking care of the civil matters, resolving any kind of arguments that have occurred between the villagers, taking care of the education of the students, of the young people in the village. And so it in that sense it is already associated with the powers that the king used to have. And um, that is also directly tied to the origin story, that it is the devtas are the descendants of the kings and queens, right? So another thing is for I can demonstrate how they are taking care of the village through an anecdote, which is that when a official from a major corporation was seeking an NOC from the village, he was asked to go to seek the blessings of the devta, who refused to obey the NOC decision, and he said that I will not be satisfied until a ropeway is built from the village, connecting it to the main road, connecting the village to the main road, and that ropeway would cost around 20 million rupees, but it had to be done because you cannot defy the devta. Defying the devta would mean not just the obstruction of the project, the hydropower project, but also a sort of revolt or rebellion from the villagers. And thus so folklore thus reveals something about through the rituals, is that things that are important in the minds of the villagers themselves, which is the care and maintenance of the village, and how to keep it up with the modern times, how to keep it connected to the main road, how to keep the youngsters involved in everyday activities, right? So the second function the devta I found it plays in the nexus of power, that is the Himachali region, is the maintenance of caste. And so the care of the devta is a sign to each family of the village, but it is assigned in accordance with caste. So the direct duties of touching the devta which are inside the temple, any of these duties are only given to upper caste members, and all the other duties are given to lower caste members who are not allowed inside the temple. Even the deolus who take part in the pilgrimage are always upper caste. Others can accompany, but they cannot feast with the upper caste members. They cannot feast with sitting alongside the devta, and they can only do things that are considered impure, like playing of the drums, which is made of leather, which is considered impure. So next, I'd like to talk about the body of the deolu. As you saw in the video, that the devta, moves according to his own will, and so the deolu then becomes a perfect example of a disciplined body. And he moves if the devta wants, gets excited sometimes by seeing Lord Raghunath. He may choose to dance, he may choose to bow, he even may choose to run, and then the deolu must literally conduct a balancing act. And so devta at that time becomes the subject, while the deolu becomes the object. So in the previous picture, as you can see, that only the devtas are visible, while the deolus are all, just become a sea of floating heads. And so the deolus then, are basically representative of villagers who must obey to the devta. But it's not a one-way dispensation of power, right? Because the deity is also, taking care of the villagers, and he's only, asking the major corporations or the ruling regimes or the government for things that are associated with the villagers. So it's a give and take, and the fear of the devta is also literally installed, as you can see in the signboard. This is a signboard taken from a temple that said that, it is the deity, it is a devta who will find you and punish you directly. It does not come from any, there's no mediator in between except for the Gur, who is considered a direct translator. So the third person involved in this nexus of power is the body of the Gur.
Actually, we have time. I think you can wind up in about 1-2 minutes. We can have some time for questions.
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so for the body of the Gaur, I just want to show like a small video. It's kind of important. So. So this is the Gaur of one of the Devis, and it's important to notice the body of the Gaur, because not only is the Gaur someone who is accorded power because he is directly associated with the Devta or the Devi, but also somebody who experiences a lot of pain in their own body, and as demonstrated by this weightlifter who said that at the peak of tremendous effort, while the blood is pounding in your head, all suddenly becomes quiet within you. Everything seems clearer and whiter than ever before. At that moment, you have the conviction that you contain all the power in the world. So after that experience of, utmost pain, where they feel horns pricking their body, after that comes a feeling of power, because they believe that they have been possessed by the Devta. And after that, so they are literally not only somebody who embodies power, but also dispenses power. So, so the Gaur's body directly becomes the single drama of history, which is his body is inscribed and re-inscribed by history and culture, and he conveys, truth-telling, which is essential for a political spirituality that Foucault has mentioned again and again, that it is necessary to tell the truth. And the Gaur is constantly rebelling against, the mainstream government, the mainstream media, and whatever the major corporations want in favor of the villagers' interests. So, but at the same time, it also, because the Gaur is always someone who is upper caste and always someone who is male, then it also instills a power play of patriarchy as well as caste. So, yes, so at the last point I would just like to make is that the surface of the deity culture in Himachal Pradesh is just being, just starting to appear. And if you want, there have been some kind of revolts, or you can say some kind of subtle revolts in this culture of, caste hierarchies, is that some Dalit communities have formed their own temples along with their own devtas. But these are not devtas who take part in the Kurudashera festival, because they are not considered as important. And because they are of the lower caste, so they are not included. So we have just literally begun to scratch the surface of what the devtas and how the devtas are involved in the nexus of power play in the villages of Himachal Pradesh. And we can do more if the Devis or devtas allow. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kari. That was a really well-researched presentation. Unfortunately, we don't have one of the presenters here, so that would mean there's more room for discussion. And Komal can also show her video. It's unfair that she couldn't show enough of what she wanted to do. We can take a couple of questions for Gayatri because she has a hard stop. So I open the floor for discussions if anyone has comments. Questions? Kindly unmute and you can ask your question.
Yeah, Elizabeth is raising her hand. Yeah, you can go ahead, Elizabeth, and ask your question.
Yes, Elizabeth German. Elizabeth, please go on.
All right, no problem.
All right, I think, anyway, maybe just to keep the ball rolling. So I'm just trying to understand this you mentioned about political spirituality and truth telling, right? So from it's a very, nuanced presentation in terms of a lot of terminologies that are very specific to the Kuludashera. So I think 15 minutes hardly cuts the chase to do justice, but you've done a really good job, Gayatri. I must give that to you. I just want to understand this relation between the Gur, the Devta, and the Devi. You mentioned about the interchange of the subject and the object, and you mentioned regarding truth telling. So in the nexus of this and this idea of political spirituality, to what extent does it extend in terms of, say, do they make predictions about elections, or do they make predictions about something that's going on in life, the current scenario? Does that relate to that?
Yeah, so the Gaur, thanks for asking. So truth telling, like I said, so the Devta is someone who is, very much involved in the villagers' lives. And so they not only know like the nits and the nitty-gritty of the individual villagers, but also some, like if they were to be asked some question about mainstream media, let's say, then they would try to answer it. But also they are also so, like I would extend on that, is that they're so involved up, like they're very flexible. So if there's a village, if there's a large village, they would, the Gaur would be present at maybe more times in the day, and the Devta would be available more times in the day to communicate, as opposed to a small village. And they would know what is going on in the village regarding, any corporation, NGOs that are coming in, and they would have an opinion on almost everything. Apart from that, the life of the village and the Devi Devta has little to do with what is happening in the mainstream government. A couple of years ago, when I attended the festival, that was the first time that Prime Minister Modi also took part in the festival and the Rath Yatra that happens. I was although the crowd turned to look at him for a major part of the proceedings, the Rath Yatra that was happening. But afterwards, everyone was very much taken back, and they were more involved with their devtas than the Prime Minister's visit. So, it meant more to them that the Prime Minister came to visit them than than the fact that, they were not in so much awe of the Prime Minister as they were in awe that he took part in our proceedings. That, now the devtas will bless him as well. So yes, they are very very involved in the modern day media and whatever is going on in the world. But the villagers and the deities themselves, are always engrossed. It's a very small knit community, each of them. So they have more to do with each other than what is going on in the larger part of the world.
Maybe we can take one more question. There are several participants. I'm sure there is something that.
Yeah, we can take up one more question.
Yes, Reba Fatima, please go ahead.
Yeah, so Gayatri, you mentioned that the Dalit gods, they do not participate in the Kulu festival. So are they not considered Hindu gods, or what is the idea behind this?
So most of the Devi Devtas that have emerged have either emerged, from the ground, or they have been found somewhere. And there are some myths behind it, so what is happening nowadays is that some Dalit communities in their own fields, while working or in the backyard, they have found some deities, and so they have started taking care of that deity, establish a temple for them. But even then, the upper caste members rarely attend these temples proceedings, and they rarely. They definitely do not allow them to take part in the Kulu Dussehra, and it is mostly a political statement for the Dalit communities, where all of them come together to take part in those specific temples. But the upper caste communities rarely attend these. Yeah, I'm sorry. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Megal, shall we go ahead with the next presentation, or we can take one more question?
I think we should move ahead to the next presentation, ma'am, if there aren't any more questions.
Yeah, we'll do that. I think that'd be better. So we have more room for discussion. All right. So we will have the final presentations for this session, which is by Insha, Embarking on the Hero's Journey, Akanandun in Kashmiri Folklore. She also, the co-presenter, is Izhar-ul-Haq, who's assistant professor in Kashmir Government Degree College, and Insha, who is from University of Kashmir, Jammu, Kashmir, India. Over to you, Insha.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Insha Qayoom from the University of Kashmir. I am pursuing my PhD in English literature. Could you please allow me to share my PPT? Because it says you're not allowed to share your screen.
Oh, let me fix that, Insha.
You can try to fix it. Can you share your screen now?
Yes, please. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes.
So the title of my paper is Embarking on the Hero's Journey, Akanandun in Kashmiri Folklore. So in this paper, I'll be connecting the heroic journey of Akanandun with the concept provided by Joseph Campbell as his hero's journey. So Folklore reflects the folk values, beliefs, which are interactive and integral components of culture and ethos of people. And Kashmir has a rich folkloric tradition that goes back to the centuries, sharing many pan-Indian traits and characteristics, and yet retaining a distinct regional flavor. Today, origins of several themes that appear in Kashmiri folklore forms have totally faded away from folk memory, while some themes have not survived in the original form, having undergone mutations and variations due to a number of undetermined factors. So while music, mystery, and supernatural elements form inseparable aspects of folklore, there are several folk tales in Kashmir, as in other Indian languages and cultures, which have themes and structures permeated by elements that lend themselves easily to the allegorical interpretations and reveal a vast potential for atemporal and mystical meaning. One such fascinating tale from Kashmir, with its intriguing central motif of mystical restoration to life or renewal of life, is the story of Akanandun. So this story, which has a didactic aspect, has been told, retold, and presented many times. So it has been told and retold Bahadur Ganai, Ramzan, Bad, Bismil Kashmiri, Samadmeet, and Ahad Zargar in their poetical renditions. So therefore, I will focus on the core of the story first. So in the story of Akanandun, we find Akanandun and his parents, who happen to be a king and a queen. They already have 7 daughters. Some say 7, some say 12. There are so many versions of the story. So the number 7 not being without a symbolic significance. So on their part, the daughters too are shown filled with an intense longing to have a brother. So the story starts with an intense desire that people have for a male child. The anxiety to have a male heir to perpetuate the ancestral lineage is most commonly discerned trait in patriarchal communities. It is at this psychological moment that a yogi or a jogi appears, as if out of nowhere, and making his crucial entry into the story. He offers to grant them their wish, though not without a condition. So they are unable to believe their heirs with the prospect of having a son, so overwhelming them that they are prepared to do anything to have him. The jogi knows their weakness, their desperation, and elicits from them a promise that they will return the child to him exactly 12 years after his birth. So without giving a second thought to the implication this would actually have, Akanandun's parents accept the offer, okay, the jogi's condition. Delirious with joy at his birth, and they rejoice and bring him up, offering all the pleasures they can provide the son, imagining that the period of 12 years will be an eternity away. So lost completely in the flow of happiness that the presence of their son brings to them, the royal couple tries to wish away the future. Probably the fear of losing Akanandun, their only child, may have lurked somewhere in the subconscious mind, but they do not let that come to the surface and hamper their joy. However, the jogi does not forget. Well, parents forget, but jogi does not forget. He remembers the promise very well and returns exactly after 12 years. Suddenly, they wake up as though from a dream. Jogi's reappearance shatters them, and they beg Jogi to spare the child and take whatever else they want. So the couple weep, they wail, they try to invoke Jogi's sympathy, but he remains unmoved, untouched by the extreme emotions displayed by the family, the parents, and the sisters. And he makes it plain to them that he will have nothing but the child. So he harshly reminds them of their promise. The parents oblige with a heavy heart and call Akanandun, who is now 17 years old and has shown a great promise in all the fields. And the parents ask Akanandun to go with the jogi. But what follows is an unimaginable horror. So the jogi, instead of taking the boy with him, commands that he to be cleansed and draped in new clothes. And when the child is ready, the jogi starts cutting the boy's body in small pieces and separates the flesh from the bones. The mother, who was then ordered by jogi to wash the pieces of meat and cook them as a dish. And when the dish is ready, the jogi commands her to taste the flesh to see if it's properly cooked, and also to serve the dish in 7 vessels and cover them with a white cloth. Again, the mother complies, but almost mechanically. But she can't control. But she can control her feelings no more when the Jogi asks her to call Akanandun to partake of his share of the meal. Now she bursts into tears and says that in no way this could be possible for her, because she herself saw that Akanandun was cooked. So she cries her heart out, but the Jogi does not relent. There must have been actually something in Jogi's voice that makes her, some supernatural powers that makes her to call her son. But she calls her son, but she does so in most pitiful voice, a lament, a wail. And when she is undergoing these extreme conditions, emotions, Akanandun comes rushing to the room and takes his place and is ready to have the meal. Now, bewildered, the family can't believe their eyes, and they turn their questioning glances towards each other, towards the Jogi, but they find no one there. The holy man has disappeared along with 7 vessels. There is nothing which can remind them of the dreadful act they have witnessed only just moments back. So this story is full of violent imagery, a catharsis of sorts, which is achieved by reading and by watching the story being enacted as a theatrical performance. So the narrative takes us through the different planes of emotion. It increases our heartbeats, it purges us of our emotions and pity and fear embedded in our psyche. On one hand, it has its own value as a moving human story, and on the other, it offers an outlet to the realm of mysterious, the supernatural powers and the miracles accessible only through faith. So probably that is why this narrative has a great appeal for Kashmiri Sufi poets like Samad Mir, like Ahad Zargar, and others who have used it to illustrate the concept of tawakkul, or submission before God, which is an important stage in spiritual practice. So this tale explores the themes of sacrifice, selflessness, detachment, with a deep spiritual and moral implications that resonate across cultures and belief systems. The power of restoration, or to the renewal of life, that Jogi demonstrate in the Akanandun story is its main motif. And this motif is not confined to this lore, Jogi lore alone, but it's a cross-cultural one. It can be seen, for example, in the well-known biblical story of Abraham and Isaac as the motif of resurrection. So when God ordered Abraham to take his only son and to sacrifice him as an offering to God. So now I have tried to connect this with the Joseph Campbell's perspective on the journey of a spiritual hero, which aligns with the journey of Akanandun as a universal narrative. Campbell emphasizes that hero ventures from an ordinary world to the realm of supernatural world. He faces challenges, achieves victory, and returns transformed with the ability to bestow boon upon others. He describes the hero's journey as a process of involving separation, initiation, return, with each phase comprising similar steps that contribute to the hero's transformation. He highlights that hero's journey is not a physical one, but an inward or spiritual quest where hero overcomes internal resistances, revives forgotten powers for the transfiguration of the world. So the hero's return signifies a recognition of the eternal source present in all things and people, leading to a profound understanding of self in all. Campbell's interpretation underscores the hero's evolution through newfound knowledge, through different trials into their ordinary life, reflecting a cyclical process of growth and enlightenment. Similarly, the spiritual journey of Akanandun can be connected to Joseph Campbell's concept of the heroic journey, as outlined in the theory of monomyth. So the hero journey, as it involves a venturing into the realm of supernatural wonders, in Akanandun, the story of Akanandun, the royal family embarks on a journey which is marked by sacrifice, obedience, and ultimately a miraculous return of their son. This parallels with the stage of separation, initiation, and return, where hero undergoes trials, gains wisdom, and returns transformed. So when we link the spiritual journey of Akanandun with Joseph Campbell's concept of heroic journey, call to adventure, the first stage. In Akanandun, the royal couple's desperate desire for a son sets the stage for the spiritual journey. The arrival of Yogi and the granting of their wish symbolize the initial call to adventure, marking the beginning of the transformating path. Second is the trials and sacrifice. So the most important moment in the tale occurs when Yogi demands the sacrifice of the boy, testing the family's faith and resolve. So this trial mirrors the challenges and sacrifices that hero faces in Campbell's heroic journey, where they must confront their deepest fears and undergo profound transformation. Third is the supernatural aid and revelation. The miraculous appearance of Akanandun, unharmed after the sacrifice, reflects a form of spirit, a common element which in the heroic narratives where divine intervention or unexpected help guides the hero through adversity. This revelation signifies a deeper spiritual truth beyond the apparent sacrifice. Yes, ma'am. Then we have return and transformation. Akanandun's return signifies a transformation not only for family but for the boy himself. The themes of sacrifice, selflessness, detachment, and Akanandun resonate with the archetypal motifs present in Campbell's concept of heroic journey. The tale's symbolic depth and psychological resonance align with the transformative nature of all the mythic narratives that Campbell explored in his works. And the spiritual journey delves into the themes of oneness, union, transcendence, echoing Campbell's emphasis on the mystical dimensions of the myth. So, in essence, the journey of Akanandun includes elements of heroic journey as outlined by Joseph Campbell, illustrating the transformative power of myth and universal themes that that underpin the human existence of experiences of sacrifice, redemption, spiritual awakening. And the tale serves as a reminder of the enduring relevance of mythic narratives in illuminating the depth of human psyche and mysteries of existence. So the connection between the spiritual journey of Akanandun and Campbell's hero highlights several universal themes of personal growth, self-discovery, cyclical nature of transformation in storytelling and mythology. Thank you so much. With this, I would like to conclude my paper.
Thank you so much, Insha. That was a really wonderful presentation in terms of the various interconnections that you brought cross-culturally in terms of Akanandun, and to also trace this aspect of spiritual growth, which is very typical of South Asian narratives. I'm not sure if you have considered, maybe we'll have some questions, we'll have observations, but this story sounds very similar to some other stories that I've listened to. There are certain aspects of Sleeping Beauty which comes in the motif index, where the stepmother comes back here. In this case, it's the Jogi, right? In Sleeping Beauty, she asks for the child, and also in Gatod Gaja, you have that kind of a story. So it's the most fascinating thing about folkloristics, where you can identify these connections, and I think that will be very fruitful for you to explore. So with that, I think I would just like to say a few sentences about what these various presentations brought in, just to sort of tie it together. I believe that this session brought in some insights into ritual performance, bordering on this idea of transformation. So we looked, the first two presentations by Gayatri and Komal examined destabilization of order and the transformative space of liminality. So while in Suri's presentation, we saw the bodies as mediums of agencies. And in Komal, we looked at the performance space, the transformative aspect of the performance, and what is the sense of belonging that you can create or that you can align with. The sense of belonging forged between communities, communitas, as we've understood in terms of the theoretical frameworks of Van Gennep and Victor Turner, is applicable in both of these presentations. The 4 stages of Van Gennep, like I think, Komal, you might know about it, right? The 4 stages, aggregation. First, the 4 stages of liminality. It's slipping my mind now. But I think if you had mentioned those 4 stages in terms of Jāgaraṇa and how that sort of comes through, that would be really good to trace this aspect of liminality that you're trying to discuss. And the corporeality, I think maybe Gayatri is not here, a little bit more of an insight in terms of the body's role in creating this, that would be great. And in Akanandun, reference to folk motif index, especially while speaking about folklore studies and folk tales in particular, I think there is actually a motif that you can refer to in terms of Arsenal Shemi's archetypes, and also the Anti-Arne and Stith Thompson folk motif index, which as students of folklore, we must probably understand and use. And in my opinion, I think it is still relevant. So wonderful presentation. At this young age, you're able to bring up some really good insights. Let's have some questions now. We have about 7 to 8 minutes. Yes, Meghal? Okay, Bhumika.
We can have the questions. Does anyone have any questions? You can raise your hand.
Participants can themselves ask questions.
I have a question personally, like um, for Komal, because Jagran is something like, despite the fact that you study it and you have seen at it from a fieldwork perspective, you are also actively participating in it. So that insider and outsider perspective, how did that sort of affect or helped you, or was it a challenge in some sort of way to navigate your argument and the points that you were trying to make about liminality, and also like the gender interaction within the Jagran space? Because as we know, like men and women both get this liberty to sort of lose out and play around with that madness freely in that kind of atmosphere. So, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, when I personally attended the Jagran ceremony, I could see that women are given a lot of liberty. Even women would not be allowed to be out of their house at after 12. But during Jagran, you can stay at somebody else's house, or maybe in a banquet, or on a tent, under a tent on a road till it's like 4 or 5. And males, many males won't be there. Like, number of males would be less and number of females would be more. So it kind of also give them it liberates them. It's a space, it's a liberating space. Even small girls who are like teenager girls, they were also sitting and listening to the kathas, and they were also dancing. Like boys are also dancing, girls are also dancing, and they might not know each other, but still they are dancing together, and nobody's stopping them, and nobody's asking them not to do that. Even people are like calling each other, come and dance. So it's liberating in that sense. And when I participated in Jagran, I kind of, yes, it was transformative for me as well, because when I heard the kathas, and when I kind of heard the songs, and basically the Tara Rani katha, when I heard that, and the person who is reciting that katha, he would give you many insights when you listen to that, and your mind kind of opens up to various perspective or various things. You kind of think about, like Tara Rani herself is a very powerful symbol, because she goes to the house of a chamar to perform the Jagrana without the knowledge of her husband at night, that too at like after 12. So she is also an empowering figure for me. So yeah, the experience of attending the Jagran was empowering, and it kind of, and I enjoyed it also. When I danced, I kind of completely, I was in it, I was in a trance when I was dancing there. So yeah, so I could be myself. I could do like it really kind of cherishes you when you dance with, among people, and you kind of completely be liberated. You're at home, we are like it packed inside a home, we are packed inside, but when we are out and dancing, it's a liberating space. It was a good experience for me as well.
Right. Komal, like, just to sort of bounce off on that entire idea, I think my question was actually, what are the examples of like the social destabilization that you talk about? But I think you answered that. But I was wondering, like you mentioned that there are also aspects of Sikhism. And Jagran, if I am not wrong, I think you also have the Jagran in Odia tradition. So it's a ritualistic performance, which the Jatra, there are a lot of parallels when you look at it. So I was wondering, what are the Sikh elements that you see in Jagran? Because you said that it is a pan-Hindu performance genre.
So basically, basically Jagran it's a Hindu ritual, right? But nowadays in urban spaces, Sikh people are also performing. It came from Punjabi Hindus, or maybe Hindu Punjabis, the people who were living in Punjab but who were Hindus. They would perform Jagran, and it kind of trickled down to Sikhs as well. So they might have a mannat, so they'll perform a Jagran. Mata Rani, they believe in, it's Mata Rani ka Jagran in Sikh community. So they don't know anything about the Hindu ritual. All they do in the Jagran is they dance. The songs are created in a way to include them to the dance flow, and they won't even know what the rituals are. They'll just do as they are directed to do. So they'll just perform all the Hindu rituals as they're directed by the pandit to do that. They'll just and most of the time it's just for a mannat, that they have asked for something and Mother Rani has kind of fulfilled that, so they will organize a Jagran for that, and then they'll do bhangra in the Jagran. So they're actually performing bhangra, when the devotional songs are being sung, and they're mostly in Punjabi. Mostly, it's curated for the Sikh audience, as if one can see that. So yeah, so there are not Sikh element as such. No religious element. You won't find any Sikh religious element in the Jagran. Only cultural elements. You'll find the bhangra,
Right.
you will find the language, but no religious element will be there.
Right. Insha, I'm just curious as to why you decided to choose Joseph Campbell's heroic journey as a framework, because Campbell, yes, extremely important in folklore studies, particularly pertaining to literary studies. But I'm just curious as to why, was there a particular reason why you wanted to look at that framework?
I actually, my research is about revisionary mythology. So I read Campbell at that time. So while I was reading Campbell, it came to my mind that it actually, the story and the motives and the themes actually resonate with what Akanandun, because this is a folk tale, and we have been listening to this folk tale from the earliest times. I remember the folk tale completely vividly. Why? Because my mother used to narrate it to my brother. So the particular name Akanandun, which literally means that he is one among the 7 sisters, the only one, which also connects it to the oneness of the transcendent idea. So it was just only that time I realized that I can connect the two. Other than that, I have no specific reasons, because I read Campbell. I have to read Campbell in detail, and that is why I could connect both of them. But I would be very, very thankful if you kind of provide me some other names or some other focus where I can connect it with the Akanandun. I'd be very thankful, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean,
suggest some
definitely
other framework.
You should most definitely consider the motif index. There are two different. There is the historiogeographic method, which was first propagated by Finnish folklorists. There were the Kuhn brothers, and then that sort of one of the I forget the name, but there is some material. There's a lot of materials available, but the Finnish folklorists and the historical geographical method first began this entire idea of categorization. Okay, so based on geography, you're able to identify the continuities. I'm not able to recall immediately, but there are at least 4 to 5 stories that have similar motif and narrative trope that is there in Akanandun. So I think that will give you a cross-cultural perspective already, which will give you a globalistic kind of orientation. Number 2,
yes, because I wanted to connect it with the Indian folklore system, as well as the global folklore.
Yeah, definitely. You can, there are even Indian motives, and particularly this aspect of spirituality that you mentioned is very interesting. And you can look at these, just these index by itself is going to give that. Actually, folklorists are divided about it. Some of them say that it's redundant. It doesn't make any sense. Whereas, yes, exactly, the UTA index, the Uther index, or the Arne Thompson and Sid Thompson index. So, and there are other people who say that no, it is still relevant and one must still look at it, right? So you can probably decide whether it is still relevant. I, for one, feel like it definitely is relevant. It is essentially like the telephone directory that we have. You want to look at any tale, you'll be able to identify the continuity. So we can keep adding to it, and that actually brings together several ideas. So I think that could be interesting. That could be an actually folkloristic framework, archetypes included, like in this idea of spiritual tradition. Currently, I'm working on something where I'm trying to explore the idea of charita. So you can also even look at genres that are already there in the Indian thinking systems to kind of examine folk tales. That in itself is a way of like destabilizing this whole colonized aspect of folklorists, right? Because folklore essentially was a very colonized field, and now we are slowly trying to unravel that and get over it through several attempts, such as this conference as well. All right, I think I will just wonderfully put together paper presentations. Thank you so much, the organizers, for giving me the opportunity. Meghal, I will let you take the lead on this.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to thank all the presenters for their fantastic papers. They were very engaging. And while we would have certainly loved to have Yashasvi with us, this also enabled us to have a very stimulating discussion as well. And I'm glad that we could have a mutual exchange of information here. We have all gotten some sources that we can turn to once the presentation is over. So I would really like to thank Deveshika ma'am for her brilliant insights on the paper. I would also like to thank the rapporteurs and the volunteers for tirelessly taking care of everything. And of course, Bhumika for taking over the duties as the coordinator for this session. We now have a short break of 10 minutes, and then we will begin with session 1C, which is titled Tracing Disappearing Cultures and Traditions. In the meantime, we can, I'd request the volunteers to turn off the recording, and we can proceed from there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being there.
Thank you, Bhumika. Thank you, Meghal.